With the kids skating on the outdoor rink so much, we decided to make some basically skate jackets or skate boot covers for their hockey skates, just so they could keep their feet and toes a bit warmer. So it's really sort of a straightforward design. It's basically just got 3 pieces of velcro on it, and it's shaped like a boot. We've got a water-resistant peplin on the outside here, which is the same stuff they make coat jackets out of, and then it's got a kind of a mountain fleece material on the inside. And just so happened they actually had one on sale that had a hockey pattern as well. So it's generally just the peplin with the fleece on the side. Cut the peplin a little bit larger so it can fold over. The way we make this, I'll show you. We've got a couple prototypes and such, but the intention here is you just put a little bit of elastic in the top part here. It goes onto the boot of the skate up the top here, just like this. It's a little easier to put on when you've actually got your foot on it. Sorry, when it's actually your foot is in it, but basically just wraps around the back. It just velcros on there like this, and then there's an underside piece of velcro there as well. I shall take this skate guard off so you can see. So, and it just basically attaches underneath there like that, and then you have a kind of a water-resistant boot material that's covering the hockey skate there. So that's the whole idea behind it. It's decently straightforward to do. I'll show you how I went about making this, but that's the idea, so you can make a keep your feet warm boot cover, and also keep a little bit of the snow and ice off there as well, because our kids walk through snow to get to the backyard rink, so this helps keep their skates from getting snow down the laces and that from that perspective as well. So that's kind of the idea. So if you find that useful, I'll show you how I went about making it, and you can adjust as you want to. So that's kind of the idea. One thing I do want to make note of is I had made a couple different types of this just for different skate sizes. So I moved to this particular mechanism, which is the wraparound back, so that it fits multiple skate sizes, not just the one. The original one we made was actually a little bit warmer, but it does require that you have to put this skate boot cover on before you actually put the skate on, because it's all one. It's made out of one piece. It just has a sewing piece up here. The side is all joined in the back, but this one here goes over the skate itself from the top perspective, and you reach it over this way. It is a bit more snug, but as I say, the problem with it is if your kids are going to grow at all, the skate boot cover is going to be locked to the size of skate that you make it for this one. So that's kind of the idea. And I'm just showing the prototype cloth. I had some old cloth, we just prototyped this out of it, but that's the other idea. And then if you want to go really cheap and easy with this, what we did here is, instead of actually sewing in the velcro for this particular one that we were using, it just take a piece of larger velcro and wrap it around the top here like that. So it's basically, it does the same thing. And then you don't have any worries about the back of the boot, because there's no sewing seam there at all. It's just, you put your piece of elastic up front here, and then just wrap your velcro around the top here, and that's basically the other way you can do it as well. So I find this is better because the kids will grow, and that way the boot cover won't have to be remade, and I figure this is probably a 1 or 2 time thing made for me anyways. So that's the idea behind them. I'll show you quickly the prototypes and templates I did, and the mechanism I use to make them, and hopefully you find it helpful. Okay, so to make these, as I said, I started with a couple of prototypes. So basically just put a skate boot down, measured the outside, drew around it, get a little bit of extra room for it, and then I sewed the top up here. The first one doesn't fit over very well, so the second one I actually ended up doing the same sort of idea, but I started the seam only from here to here on the actual, on the sewing there. And I made sure to make enough space to do the fold over to get the piece of elastic in there as well. So that prototype ended up worked out well. So we ended up making just a template piece that goes here. And this template piece, it has a little bit more room on it, so that we've got the extra material to do the wrap around the back, because as I said before, I chose to do this in a so that it could be velcro to the back, so we can expand it for bigger skates as we need to later on. The other change I made as well is, before, when I used to have these 2 edges joined, I realized that I wanted the seam to be strong up here. So what I've started up doing now is, instead of doing the cut and on the start like this, so it's laying on the actual material I'm cutting into, what I ended up doing was I ended up changing it around so that the joint for the actual boot piece is right here in the center so that this piece is all material so it stays strong there, because you're going to be pulling onto the boot with that piece there. So that was the other modification I made into this design. Figured that was where the strength point needed to be for what we're trying to do. So the next step is to trace this out, so I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you how we measure the fleece in there as well. This is all basically by feel. There's not a lot of exact science to the measuring, so I will give you the measurements after I get the tracing done, just so you can see. But you know, my recommendation to you is just grab the skate boot and basically stick it on the piece that you're trying to do, and do your trace around that you're trying to do there. So you can see I did a rough trace on this template and added some extra in the back here so it fits out. So that's kind of how this ended up being designed from the scratch. So I'll get the stuff laid out and we'll show you marking it up and do a quick little cut on it. So to start, I took the template and just take a piece of chalk or whatever you want to use to mark your material out. Give it a quick little trace around the thing here, and what I'm going to do, because we want to leave that spot here that's joined, so we actually will just do this, and then I'll just flip the template over there so it sits there. That's the joint piece that I want to get to, essentially. So we'll get that thing drawn out there, do the rest of the tracing. Again, you don't have to be too perfect, because when you do your seam folds you can adjust it afterwards as you need to when you're actually doing the sewing of the inside out fashion. But this gives us the general idea of what we're going to be doing there. So that's what that looks like for the trace out. Next step is to cut it out. So we'll just get a nice sharp pair of scissors. I'll spare you the drudgery of watching me cut around the whole lines, but this is the general idea. So, and I also cut this little V out as well, but I'll do that later. So I'll spin this out and we'll get the template laid down once I've got the cutting done. Once you get the jacket material, peplin, whatever cut out, you just do a quick lay on top of the fleece that you're going to be doing. It needs to be just a little bit shorter. We'll cut it down later, but for right now, it doesn't need to be right to the bottom. Probably could leave a bit more space to save a bit of material, but you know. And then basically just trace it out again, and then repeat the same cutting so you have the pieces together. So we'll do again. I'll show you the rest of the cutting, and I'll just show you when the finished product of the cutting. As I move on to the next step now, which is really just fitting the fleece on top of the peplin, I'm sure there's tailors and seamstresses out there that are just screaming in agony about my rudimentary approach to this, so apologies, but this is pure amateur hour here. So, but it still works and is effective, so if you find it useful, give me a like and let me know if you do use it and such. But just I thought I would give you some quick measurements. So this is 10.5 inches high. This top piece here to the beginning of the curve is 7.5 inches. The set from the center to the edge there is 13.5. Again, I think you should, it's 14 inches. I think that you should really just measure the skates that you're trying to fit them onto and give that a shot there. So, and then these curves you can figure out the angle, but it's basically 7.5 inches to the top there as well. So I hope that's giving you enough. So again, that's 10.5 by that one up there being 8.5 it looks like, and then right here to the center piece it's 14 to the center. So you know, just to give you some idea for scale. So the next thing we're doing is we're basically just going to attach these things together, and I'll show you how to do that, which when I was doing this, I was doing it from just, I wanted to have a little bit of extra strength up top here, so I ended up attaching the top of the fleece, and then I started doing the fold over for the covers. So we'll end up doing some pinning and such like this to cover that over, and it'll the peplin will make sure the fleece stays in place when we sew it together. So we'll get there in a second and I'll show you the next steps. So I just did some very quick pinning at the top here, and I'm going to do the first sewing on the machine right along the edge here. So I'll leave you to your imagination how you want to do that. You can hand sew it or machine sew it, whatever you feel like. So, and you can choose the stitch that you want to use too. So for this one I'm just using straight lines because it's really just attaching the two pieces together. I'll use more of a zigzag cross for more strength when we go to actually join the peplins together later on. But anyways, that's the next step is to do the first line of sewing. And one tip I do want to mention, I forgot to say, was that when you are pinning, make sure that you're pinning so that the head of the pin is towards you, and so that the material is going to be on the outside of the sewing machine. It just makes life easier. So you basically pin pushing in this way when you're doing it. You can just test it by seeing where you want to start, and you'll notice that I'm not starting at the edge of the material because I actually want a little bit of a gap down here at the bottom end. So I'm starting about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in this where I'm starting to actually sew. So, but that's really what you want to do is as the machine goes, if you pin in that direction, then you can easily just pull it out before it gets caught underneath the sewing machine foot there. So anyways, just one more tip before you start: make sure you try and pin so that you're pushing in towards that direction when you're doing it. So all these pins, the heads are all facing to the left here. Okay. So one of the tip is just make sure that when you put the pins in, that you have them in so that they're able to be removed, and you want the material on the outside of the sewing machine here. So I start a little about 1.5 inches in from the bottom as well, just because we're going to do some potential cutting of the fleece down at the bottom just when we actually get the sizing done at the end material here. So anyway, so we'll just start it, and I'll fast forward this as we go, but you can get a general idea of just how to sew this, how I done it anyways. Next, I've just folded over the peplin and over the fleece top here, and I'm going to basically do the seam on this side out here at the back, and same on the other side when I'm done here. So I'll do this one side quickly and show you, and then we'll flip over and do this other side. This one I want to make sure I get a good start. The other one didn't matter so much because it's going to be reattached, but this one is its first starting seam, so make sure you do a little reverse just to get the sewing machine to get that extra grab there. Just using a little bit of the masking tape trick here, or sorry, cellophane tape, just to hold the corner down until it gets underneath. Okay. Stop here for now, just so we can measure the length of the boot afterwards. There we go. Okay. Next piece is just right after you get the outsides done, so these two edges are all now finished on both sides. The peplin's folded over and sewn. I do a little sort of 1/2 inch fold over the peplin down here as well, just to give a little bit more reinforcement right before where we're going to put the elastic afterwards. So just doing that really quickly right now. It's very trivial. You don't really have to do this. I think on the first ones that we had, we noticed this looks like it's a bit weak. So we're just going to try and do this a little bit of reinforcement here. It's the intention. It's very quick, but it takes no effort. We're going to see if it makes a difference or not. There we go. Okay, and now the time to do the inside seam that's going to turn this into a boot. So this is starts where that initial fold over we actually started with up there is going to be, and we're going to go right down here, right to where the material's all one piece still here. So we're going to do that. And this one we want to be decently strong as well. So I'm actually going to change this to a weave thread once I actually get it started here. So we'll do a quick start, back it up so it locks in, and then I'm going to flip it over to more of a zigzag here, just for a bit more strength. Because this is where most of the pulling will be done. And then we'll back that up just a bit. Change it back to straight and just finish it off. There we go. And then that should now be our boot, ready to be turned inside out. So we should now be able to turn this beast over, and we now have the boot essentially put together here. Get a little bit of string off, And the last two pieces now, we just got to put the elastic into this bottom part down here, and then just sew the bottom, do the curl over the peplin, and then add the Velcro pieces. So we'll get to those right next. And fitting the bottom of the boot now, what we want to do is we want to have a little bit of a curve to it, just so it kind of does this a little bit. So these center pieces are a little bit longer, so it can actually go underneath the middle of the skate here. So this piece is going to be that little bit lower in the center, a little higher at the toe and a little higher at the heel. So it's just kind of a very gentle curve into this essentially. So this is your low point. So I've done that on this side already. I made the mark here. So I'm going to do that on this side here as well. And then that gives you doesn't interfere with the heel of the toe, and it works well for the elastic. So the next step is I cut about a 7-inch piece of elastic, and we put that in here. We secure it to one side, and then we're going to basically pull it and stuff some material back, and then we're going to pin that there, and then we'll do it on the other side, the same sort of idea here, and that'll actually give the toe the grip that it needs to just hook around the top of the toe of the boot. Okay, so we'll do that right next. Okay, so I've pulled the elastic taut and then crumpled the material up on a little bit now, so it's got a bit of give in there, and I've now secured it with a pin. So now I'm going to basically going to secure the elastic down on this side, and then we'll finish the rest of the overlapped edges. Sorry, we'll be finished pretty soon. And we have the boot more or less finished now. So the next piece is just to get about 9 inches of Velcro. And we're going to cut them into 1.5 inch long pieces, and we'll start attaching them inside and outside as we need to here. And I'll do that right now. Okay, attaching the Velcro pieces, do a few passes of thread just so that it can handle the force of the Velcro coming on and off. But aside from that, we're mostly finished here. Go backwards now. And forwards again. And give it a spin so it's each side here. It goes in there before it's spent. There we go. There. Oops. We can get them both there. So that's that one on there, and now we'll just do the underside piece as well. So the underside piece is going to wrap around, so you got to make sure that the part that sticks to this is on the outside part of it, like so. And once we've got that so that it is the correct one, because that's the one that's going to wrap around, it's pretty close, nice and even. And then we'll just stick this guy up here and get him underneath the, oops, it moved. Should probably put the mark there just so I can see and be 100% sure so they line up. So a little bit of chalk. There we go. Get this guy here. Underneath, stick the Velcro on there. Start the turn, and here we go. Oops, forgot to put the shoe down. Oh, that was not good. Hope I didn't mess the thread up. This Velcro is pretty grabby when you're doing this side, so it can, and it did, it can actually grab the thread and rip it, which is what just happened right then. So you got to basically rethread the machine when that happens, but it's just because the hooks themselves can grab the thread and tear it. So But that's it. I'll show you the finished product, but essentially it's going to end up looking just like this. We're going to put the rest of the pieces on there. Originally I put these two on that way, but it really doesn't make a big difference for the how high, because kids don't usually put it too cockeyed, but it is good for giving extra growth if you put it the way that I've done it here, which is I've made these guys actually go lengthwise as well, so that it has a bit more throw right in case they grow a bit, and when they change their skate sizes, this will fit on the next boot size up. So I'll fix the thread, and then we'll show you the finished product when I'm done. And then that's it. Everything's all finished. The elastic's all together, Velcro's all here. Because we've taken it for a test drive at -20, so they say it's keeping the snow off the boot, which is one of the primary things when we're walking across the yard, and it kept them warm. So that's how difficult it is to put on. Basically just do the 2 pieces of Velcro up at the top, back there, and then the one at the bottom, and the boot is covered. So there you go, that's how you do it. If you like the video, please hit like and subscribe. I hope you find them useful.